felt really inspired to have this conversation with me today because you feel like a lot of people benefit from understanding how I deconstructed the religious hierarchy of romantic relationships. So I would love for you to just ask me any questions you have.
I would love for you to interview me.
I would love to be interviewed by you, sweetie. I really do want to be interviewed by you. I think that you have amazing questions and I want to answer them because I'm sure people can relate and I hope they get a lot out of it.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds good. Okay. So
Explain. Maybe do like
a little bit of a summary.
like a prequel?
Yeah. Nope.
Nope.
Not a prequel.
What is it?
I'm not sure. What's your
Give some backstory.
Okay.
Give some backstory.
Sure.
All right.
So Keely grew up in religion and
What kind?
I don't know. Which one?
Oh.
This is your story, girlie.
I grew up in Southern Baptist Christianity.
And so well, you should speak on this, not me. I can only speak on my...
You're the interviewer. You're supposed to study me. It's okay. Anyway, I grew up in a Southern Baptist Christian environment my entire life. A lot of what they teach about is finding your person, having this relationship be the hierarchy, and basically, what is the word I'm looking for? Giving yourself to that person and then not having a life outside of that besides serving God. Is really what it felt like. And the messaging.
Promoting, like, you being with men.
Yeah.
Too, right? So it wasn't even, like, hierarchy of, like, queer relationships. It was...
Find a man, submit to the man. Submit, that's the word. Submit to the man.
Horrible.
Submit to the man and live your life and do what you're supposed to do and obey him.
Okay, so what did you learn from that?
I learned find one person, because obviously I was queer, wasn't looking for a man, and I needed to find one person. You dedicate your life to them and you do life together. You have a family, you have kids, you tend to your offspring and make them be lovers of God, and you don't really pour too much into other relationships.
A little warning here about this. Like,
if you have religious trauma and you are not ready to have these conversations,
with caution while listening to this.
Maybe I should put that in the beginning.
Definitely.
Can you cut this and put this in the beginning?
I don't think so.
Perfect.
It's in here.
Hop off the train now if you don't want to be a part of this conversation.
So
we're talking about religion.
This is where Keely, her background coming into this relationship. For me, I grew up without being in a religion. I grew up Jewish culturally, but I really never was involved in the Jewish religion. And I learned, I think, from media, from just being in public schools and wherever else I was learning anything, was that romantic relationships were important, but it's also really important to have friends. And I also saw through my relationships within my family that my dad really prioritized his friendships outside of having a wife who's my mom.
Yeah.
So I learned from a very early age the importance of having friends in your life and what other kinds of love looked like. And he was very open with his friends. He would tell them that he loved them and would show up for them consistently. And so I learned from him the importance of having people outside of your romantic relationship, whatever that looks like, that you can have other people to cultivate a community. And so I started to do that from a very early age, putting the importance on friendship, along with this other layer, being queer. I really wasn't dating growing up because I was closeted and I didn't want to explore that part of me. So I focused my love on my friendships, and I had, a lot of very close friendships that are very important to me.
You sound like a robot. That are very important to me. Tell. You're not giving the details.
Which detail did you want me to give?
What do you mean by very close friendships that were very important to you?
I had best friends throughout high school. I think I really struggled in, elementary school and middle school because I was figuring out myself. But I think when I was 13, 14, I found a group of like 5 girls that were seemingly to me all straight at the time, and I hadn't come out, so it was just like we were giving each other all the time, all the love, because none of them were dating either. So it was like we poured love into each other. We showed up for each other. We created this little community where it was like I was going over to their houses all the time. We would just spend all this time together. We would go on trips together. And I loved that. It was something that was so cool to me, where it was like I didn't place any importance on romantic relationships, partly because I wasn't in the space to come out and uncover that whole thing. But it was love to me, and it didn't make it any less because it was without those romantic aspects. It was just beautiful giving and receiving and having fun with each other. And so I learned that love takes many forms, and one of them is through friendships. I love it.
So while Dani was having the best time with her friends and taking these trips and experiencing this beautiful form of love from friendships, I didn't see that so much. I didn't see that so much in my life, and I saw a lot of people around me being very private, keeping to themselves, having their romantic relationships. I also was understanding that I was queer at a very young age. And so when that was happening, I was like, I have to explore this. I have to do this in secrecy. I need to find a person that will love me. That was my thought. And I did. At a very young age, I got into relationships, and I found romantic relationships to be my source of happiness, validation,
and love. Ultimately, I think we had very different ideas of love and coming into it, and intimacy.
And I really thought, from what I was learning in religion, that like this was great. I was gonna find someone that like really was a partner that was equally yoked and was on the same page, even though wasn't a man. I kind of overlooked that a little bit, and I was like, don't worry, I'll always be a secret, so it won't matter. All of these different thoughts that I internalized so much within me. And then you come out, you grow, you evolve, but these patterns still live in your body, and these ways of being are still the messaging that you've been conditioned by. And so when Dani was having all of these friendships, and
this was later on in my life, as I was in a relationship with Keely,
I was confused. I didn't understand. I didn't feel like a priority.
Yeah, what were the thoughts going through your head when I was explaining to you the importance of having deep, intimate friendships?
I was concerned, heavily concerned. I was like, what does that mean? Especially as someone who is deeply emotionally connected just in my romantic relationships, and I never shared emotional intimacy with my friends, really. I was always on a team. I played sports. I think that layer, that additional piece of your relationships of having something always there, doesn't really create room for deep emotional connection because you don't have to.
Also, the layer of you've turned a lot of your friendships into romantic relationships.
Yeah, so listen to how confusing this was. So the layer of me also turning my friendships into romantic relationships, because I didn't know. I was just thinking, even though I knew it wasn't a good fit, I just did that.
So I think you came into like my what? you came into our relationship thinking that friendships are always a threat because they always create romantic relationships.
I came into our relationship confused as fuck.
Yeah.
I was heavily confused on what any of this meant, especially being queer. In my head, you going to a gay event at a bar with another queer friend was like, red flag, red flag, red flag, like she's gonna leave you.
What were the thoughts? What were you afraid of?
Because if you think about it in a straight sense, my dad would never go to the bar with another woman at night.
We have to be honest about something. When we were figuring this out, we actually asked our parents what we thought we should do, and that was absolutely the worst thing that we could have done. Because they're not queer. They don't understand the importance of having queer friends. They don't understand the layers of what it looks like.
Or even really connect with the opposite gender in friendships.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much danger that they perceive through having relationships of all kinds that it's very difficult for them to see anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I heard it from my family as well. They were like, I don't do that. I don't hang out with, for them, someone of the opposite sex because I'm afraid of what it will lead to. And so
I was so confused, but I had to experience it myself. And I had to be in relationships that I had to literally just do it. I had to just experience friendship and be very cautious and understand what it meant to have emotional intimacy and understand how to communicate with you. And I had to trust you, and I had to trust myself more than anything. Because so many of my friendships had turned into romantic relationships, either someone ended up liking me or whatever. That did happen again.
It did happen again.
But I knew in my heart that I was showing up as my authentic self and that I needed to end that friendship. Whereas before, my pattern was to, oh, we're friends, we have emotional connection, let's turn this into something more. Obviously, I'm in a relationship. I'm not doing that. I'm in a monogamous relationship. But at the same time, it really showed me the difference for myself of what it means to have a friend versus a romantic partner. And I really had an opportunity to experience love because as much as I want Dani to fully see me in all ways, she can't. She doesn't know my lived experience. She hasn't lived every moment of my life with me.
I also don't satisfy her every need in terms
and
of
you're
her
not supposed to. You're not supposed to. So I really feel like what friendship has given me is an opportunity to be seen in different ways that maybe I'm not seen in this relationship.
Yep.
And I'm able to connect and I'm able to be loved, and I have deconstructed the fuck out of this thing. Like, I have written charts. I have talked about it so intensely.
Sorry, you're screaming into the microphone.
Oh no. I'm so sorry. I hope your ears are okay. Anyway.
The whole thing is really interesting because, again, all of this really relates to boundaries. Because Keely has had past experiences where even though we are in a monogamous, committed relationship, there are still people that try to make moves on Keely. I think it's all about the boundaries that you set with your friends so that you can have deep and meaningful friendships. And if someone's not on the same page of respecting your relationship and showing up for you in the ways that you need, even beyond thinking that it's more, I think there's just a lot of layers to this.
There's a lot of layers to this. It really is not. This is not the best sound quality today.
Sorry, everyone.
I deeply apologize. I will be so much better on the next podcast. But at least I'm talking into my microphone today.
That's important. We did get a comment about how you all can't hear Keely. So I made sure that you all could hear her. Now I think you hear her a little too much.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I actually just want to open it up. What questions do you have? I know you're not here right now, so you're not going to really ask me. But message us on Instagram. Honestly, I'd love to make more content about this. I'd love to...
It's talking about healthy friendships. Healthy queer friendships, healthy friendships. And again, healthy friendships means respecting boundaries and showing up in a vulnerable, authentic way. And so if you are someone that values deep and meaningful friendships and creating reciprocated friendships, you are definitely in the right place. This is a huge chunk of what we talk about when we're talking about love and what it looks like. And it doesn't look like turning, things into different types of relationships unless you're in a place where you're able to do that
or want to in your life. That's all I have today. I don't know if you have any more questions for me.
No, I think it's a topic that we will always be expanding on. I think we should go through details and stories once we get questions. So I would love for all of you to send in questions that you have about healthy queer friendships so we can really dive deeper into what it is that's going on in your life.
Honestly, we'll just make more podcast episodes about it if you're interested. So probably the best thing that you could do is email team, so it doesn't get lost, team@comingouthappy.com. Put in the subject, healthy queer friendships, and then ask your question in the body. And it'll be anonymous. Ask away. We'll answer. We'll come back with questions. So as soon as you hear this episode, make sure you ask. That way we know we can plan it in the next episodes.
Sending you all lots of love, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
Lots of love. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Sorry
everyone.
for screaming.